Welcome, everybody, to Connecting the Universe. I'm author and researcher Mike Ricksecker, back at you with another interactive class out of the secret library of the Connected Universe. Well, we have an interesting one up for you this evening. We're going to be asking the question, should we be shooting at UFOs and UAPs, like firing missiles at them? Seems like a no-brainer question, but actually this has apparently been a thing lately. Came out in the U.S. congressional hearings that we've done this here recently. China just did this recently, like right after the congressional hearings. And yeah, what is going on with this that we feel the need to fire upon these things? So we'll be getting into all of that throughout the evening. But before we do, just want to let those know that are listening to the podcast version of this later. You can join us every Wednesday night, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time live. You'll be able to catch the full presentation. You'll be able to watch the videos, see some of the, of course, slides that I share. And for this evening, the videos, well, you know, they're quiet. I'm going to be doing a little monologue over the top of them, but you're not going to be able to see things if you're only listening to it. But hey, I know many of you are, you know, driving, running, doing different things while you're tuning into the podcast. We do appreciate that. Just letting you know, there's a live version. You can always come back and watch the replay as well. But for those that are members of the Connected Universe portal, of course, you get the after show just after this. You also get sneak peek of behind the scenes video, monthly Q&A videos, which we have one coming up. So I'll be making the post here very soon. So be on the lookout for that. Get your questions ready. I'll post that out there on the Connected Universe portal, the Patreon, patreon.com/Mike Ricksecker, and also on all the social media platforms like Facebook and all that fun stuff. And yeah, and also within the Connected Universe portal, you get those insider travel blogs, all the Egypt material. So much going on back behind there. Admittedly, last few weeks has been a little sparser than usual, and that's because I am heavily into a couple of projects right now that I need to get done within like the next 3 weeks. And then I'm going to be off traveling, which I'll be sharing all of those travels with you. So do want to share that we have some news here, which I was really, really happy about. And that is that, and it's really, it's not up. There it is. Okay. It's hard to see. They made everything, because they changed the platform. Everything's really small now. And I'm not going to wear my glasses while I'm live here. But here we go. We are, as the Connecting the Universe podcast, we have been nominated for the best ancient history archaeology podcast by the Para Podcast Festival out there in LA. So Tony Sweet from Truth Be Known Radio runs that, and we've been nominated along with that would be Earth Ancients podcast, Cliff Dunning, and Uncharted X, Ben Van Kerkwijk. Both are very phenomenal podcasts. I know both of them. Great guys, great podcasts and content there. So very honored to have been nominated for that. And I want to thank all of you for hanging out with us on Wednesdays, tuning in, listening. If you're listening to the audio later on, all of that, really, really appreciate it. So thank you so very, very much for that. Because without you, this show doesn't exist. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into, well, we'll do a few shout outs here. So Tom McNicholas is in the house. Great to see you, Tom. Scarlett, wonderful to see you as well. Verena Artistry, thanks for joining us tonight. Colleen Paulison, thank you for joining us as well. Jose Sanchez is back with us. That's fantastic. Michelle Brandenburg, thank you as well. And yeah, going to be a fantastic evening. And yes, all you beautiful people. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into all of this. Okay. Firing upon UFOs, UAPs, trying to shoot them down. Whatever in the world are we doing? I mean, first and foremost, I'm going to say let's not do it for a variety of different reasons that we are going to get into this evening. But I do want to start with the clip in question. Now, this came out during the latest UFO hearing. And that came out on September the 10th, which was a Wednesday. And I was a little distracted because that's when mentioned Ben Van Kerkwyk earlier. That's when he was on Joe Rogan and actually mentioned myself and Mohammed Ibrahim and Trevor Grassi, because Mohammed and I had a interview with Trevor about stargates on his channel, which was released then, and then Ben was there on Joe talking about it. And so all these things just happened back to back to back, and finally got around to discussing it. So we're finally having a show on this. And this was a clip that was pulled straight from there. So it does the actual video clip of the UFO is silent, but you're going to have one of the congressmen there speaking a little bit, Burleson. So I'm just going to go ahead and play the clip.
And as before it starts, I'm going to describe, this was taken October 30th of 2024. This video is of an MQ-9 drone tracking an orb, or this object, off the coast of Yemen. You'll see that another MQ-9 launched a Hellfire missile. You cannot see that drone. And so I'm not going to explain it to you. You'll see exactly what it does. This is when it zoomed out, so you can still see it traveling. So, Mr. Knapp, have you heard about events like this occurring? And what information might you have?
I have heard about events like this. I have heard about this event. Jeremy Corbell and I talked about it in one of our episodes a while back. We did not have the video, though. There are servers where there's a whole bank of these kind of videos that Congress has not been allowed to see, that the public hasn't been allowed to see. Occasionally, some of that stuff gets out in the wild and it comes our way. It should be going to you. The public should be seeing this stuff. And why you're not allowed to, I don't know. But that's a Hellfire missile smacking into that UFO and just bounced right off. And it kept going.
It kept going, and it looks like the debris was taken with it.
Yeah, what the hell is that?
So
what flies like that?
Again, I'm not going to speculate what it is, but the question is, why are we being blocked from this information?
Okay, so wasn't able to monologue over the top of it like I wanted to because the platform is being glitchy again. It seemed like they'd gotten their act together a few weeks back when we did some things, but apparently not. Apparently they decided to re-glitch the whole thing. In any case, yeah, really, really fascinating video because like Jose says down here, Hellfire missile bounces off the UFO like a cartoon. And that's interesting is, kind of the way that all happened, because there wasn't, like, the Hellfire missile hit it. There was not, and of course I'm knocking things over here. There was not an explosion. Like, nothing blew up. So when we look at this, I do have, some clips here. Some snips that I took from there. So what we're looking at here is really, it's a white glowing object, or at least in this, it's a black and white video, but it's some sort of glowing sphere, some sort of ball of light. And that's kind of in the middle. You see the reticule there in the middle, and the UFO in this shot is to the left of it. This is just after the Hellfire missile has hit it. The Hellfire missile's down in the lower right of the screen. It's hit it, and it continues to go on. Now, this object, gets jarred by the Hellfire missile and bounces around a little bit, and little pieces, seem to stream off of it. So here it is. It's down at the bottom there, and then there's at least 4 little pieces that are floating around that seem to have come off of it, or maybe it came off the Hellfire missile. We really don't know. because the Hellfire missile kept going and the UFO kept going. Both went on their merry ways and just kept cruising right along. So this Hellfire missile was fired from a drone. And the question that I posed in my blog, and I linked the blog article down in the description. The question that I had posed was, who fired this thing? And actually, there's an article in Florida Today by John Torres, who had contacted me and asked me about this particular video. And so I asked the question in that article as well. I'll try to go back and link that one as well. I'll have to update the description, but I should link that because I appreciate John reaching out to me about that. So the question is, well, one, why are we firing upon it? Was there some sort of perceived threat? And two, who authorized it and why? So I guess that's three questions. Yeah. So yeah, it's okay. This is off the coast of Yemen. And was it a person who authorized it? Like Manuel, we have a drone out there. We see this incoming object. We're going to have the drone fire at it. Was that from some sort of operator? Maybe there was a supervisor, some sort of commander, the colonel, whomever, that said, yep, go ahead and fire at that thing. Or my bigger question for that was this automatic? We're talking a drone. We have become so very, very automated in everything that we do now using artificial intelligence that we are looking now at, okay, this is a perceived threat. What are the parameters of that possible perceived threat that the drone automatically fires at the thing? Now, this was the idea 130 years ago by Nikola Tesla. Honest. Back during the Spanish-American War, he had developed what he called a teletomaton, and it was like a little boat. And the idea was for humans to stop being involved in warfare, and we'd let the machines battle it out. And the idea was that this little boat could select a target and determine whether or not it should fire upon that target. And if it did, automatically fire its torpedo. That was the whole idea. So yes, back in the late 1800s, Tesla was developing drones with artificial intelligence. This guy was way ahead of his time. So is that what happened here? And if so, that's scary. That is scary to think about. So those who have seen, those in the Connected Universe portal, I got deep into this for a good 15 minutes. I put out a TikTok, Instagram, Facebook reel. Did I put it on YouTube? I may have put it on YouTube as well, where the idea of artificial intelligence automatically launching a missile at anything is scary, because I had a cousin who was on TWA Flight 800 back in the 90s. And there is a theory out there that many of the family members from people who were victims on that believe that something was accidentally fired upon the plane. There were witnesses that believe that they saw something get shot up into the sky and hit the plane. Now, the U.S. has never taken any sort of ownership of that, like that, at all. Now, we had John D'Souza on Edge of the Rabbit Hole years ago. I had just moved out to Illinois. It was the first show that I'd done out of Illinois, realizing that, oh my gosh, my internet connection is horrible out here. And the room that I set up in for that had terrible lighting. Everything was like blue. It's horrible. But we're talking with John, and he's a former FBI agent. And so we start getting into conspiracy theories and things like this. And my co-hostess at the time had said something about, well, yeah, you probably can't talk about this, that, or the other thing. And he's like, actually, we can talk about a lot of different things because there's so much that's out there that's public. So yeah, we're free to talk about 9/11 and all of that. So, okay, great. I asked him about TWA 800. And he's like, yeah, Mike, that's like the one I can't talk about. He's like, I did work on that case, but we can't talk about it at all. So that leads me to believe something is up, something's behind that. So when we have drones drones automatically, just by nature have AI within it. We've artificial intelligence. I know we've had this big thing about AI here lately. Artificial intelligence has been around for decades and decades and decades. It's become more advanced, become a lot more advanced lately. And of course, it made a big splash here with ChatGPT, which writes a wonderful paragraph, even though half the information is incorrect. So I don't use it until they can get their information actually correct in that beautiful paragraph that they write. But so yeah, it draws a concern for me as to what the decision process was in firing this missile at a UFO. And then again, the question is, why? Why are we firing it? How was it a perceived threat if it's just careening across the sky? And if it's just, this ball of light, okay, are you trying to communicate with it? Or, we don't know. We don't know if they were actually trying to, get on the horn. Hey, send some sort of communication signal to it to find out, hey, you're in our airspace. What's going on? And and honestly, if they are not equipped or have different equipment on whatever that might be, they might not be on your frequency to pick up a transmission. So yeah, to just be like, okay, they're not answering, just fire at them. That doesn't make any sense either. So got a couple of comments coming in. So Jose is asking, could it be a magnetic force field that repelled the missile? Well, we're going to get a little bit into, as we go along, the idea of this being some sort of energy object, like whether it was like some sort of plasmoid or something like that. So, and then could AI have made the decision? That's what I was kind of getting at. Yeah. Tom, how can they really know if it's an alien threat or another country threat? Well, that's the thing is, yeah, it could have been another country. Absolutely. This didn't have to be alien. It didn't have to be interdimensional. It could have been either one of those. All these options are on the table. Could have been extraterrestrial, could have been ultra terrestrial, what we call interdimensional beings. It could have been another country flying through the airspace. It could have even been military training. Perhaps they were testing some new technology. We don't know. All we have right now is this video. And if it is a new technology, well, that's all kinds of different technologies mixed into one. You've got the drone, you've got the Hellfire missile, you've got whatever this object is. And again, if the Hellfire missile is hitting the thing and not exploding and keeping on going, what's that? Did they level up the Hellfire missiles? There's a lot of weird things going on in this. So we're going to come back around to some of that stuff. So I have another video here that I'm going to play. This is the one from China. Now, this incident in China happened 2 days after the U.S. congressional hearings. So the clip that I had just played from that was released during the congressional hearings, that incident happened in October 2024. The hearing was early September this year, just a couple weeks ago. But then 2 days after that, this happened in China. Okay. So again, couldn't monologue over the top of it because the platform's being weird again. For the podcast version later, maybe I'll go back and play some music over the top of it. I have no idea what I'm going to do for that. Maybe I'll come up with a monologue to put over it. But so that was the same incident from multiple angles. And again, I took a screen capture of that. So what we have here is, it's over on the left-hand side, and you can see the very bright missile. You can see the trail of the missile headed directly for this. All we can see of it is as a light in the sky. And it hits that, and this one does explode. So unlike the one with the Hellfire missile, where the Hellfire missile just bounced off of it, and the UFO or UAP just kind of bounced around a little bit, and they both went on their merry ways, this one becomes a very explosive event. So again, really, I mean, it's coming out of China, so we don't know a lot of the details of it. And of course, China's not going to reveal any of their military operations to us. So, again, kind of like Tom, what you were asking, was it a foreign threat? Was it military testing, or, was it truly a UFO or interdimensional object of some sort? We're going to get into some of that here shortly. What I do also want to cover a couple things out of the U.S. Congressional hearing, since we're on it and we're right here. So other things that came out of this was, I thought it was a mixed bag. I mean, this was fascinating. This was really interesting. That was just dropped on us. I've kind of criticized the hearings before, as far as we haven't really gotten a lot of new information out of them. Like, I mean, it was great that we're having the discussions, and kind of validates our field a lot more as people who are researching all this. So, we're not as crazy as people thought we were for decades and decades. So now it's giving us more legitimacy. But the actual information being provided was stuff that we already knew. Yes, we knew people were seeing things in the skies. Yes, we knew crash material had been recovered. I mean, that goes all the way back to Roswell, and even beforehand, like Cape Girardeau and some others. So this was stuff that we already knew for a long time. But again, great that it was being discussed. Here, we're getting a new clip like that, which is, again, we're kind of scratching our heads. What is that? The Navy actually released a clip, and they even had an individual there who was still active duty getting up there and discussing the incident. Now, it could have been all a dog and pony show, but the fact that they did a little bit of something, it could be like a little bit of that good faith effort, perhaps. But then you had, reports like the Air Force, where they had been collecting these police reports from incidents and cases. But even though the cases were still open, if the documents had been around for 3 years, they were destroying the documents. So, all that work, if you're trying to do some research, do some legwork, anything, it's gone. So what in the world is up with that? You also had, a lot of, George Knapp, journalist out there in Vegas, who has been all over this for decades and decades and decades, basically, leveled Arrow, which is supposed to be the organization that's been collecting all this information here lately, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. And so, yeah, I mean, this was like, he just slammed the reliability and credibility of Arrow because of the fact that people were reporting to there and were being treated like, again, like their report didn't matter, like they were just seeing things and weren't really being taken seriously. So, it called into question the legitimacy of this office that was supposed to be collecting this. Now, I had always been leery of Arrow anyway, because they were only collecting reports from people associated with the government. So, government officials, government workers, military, only that. If you're a civilian, forget it. You can't report to them, which to me just did a disservice. It's, your data set only coming from the military makes zero sense. Okay, sure, you're going to get a clip like we just saw there off the coast of Yemen, because that is from military surveillance. But there's a lot more civilian people out there with their cell phones, like we saw in the China video, that are capturing things in the sky. So you are discarding probably at least 3/4 of your data set by not collecting civilian reports. And so yeah, to me, it was just incomplete. It was pretty much, it's been pretty much a farce. And I still want to know what in the world's going on with the reports from like back in the days of Project Blue Book, which still has 700 open cases. Now, they would be considered cold cases because, they're back from the 50s and 60s, but, these are still open cases that it seems like they totally got discarded, and we're going to open up this little new office, not take people seriously, and we're only going to select a very niche data set, where Project Blue Book was investigating civilian cases. So yeah, absolutely bizarre to me, that office. All right, so we're going to get into what exactly these things may have been that they were firing up. We do have some comments in here I want to get to. Let's see. So Michelle saying the hearing was amazing. Seemed like they were more adamant this time to get the point across. Yeah, well, you had guys on the panel like George Knapp, who has been on this for ever and ever and ever, and like sneaking documents and things like this out of Russia. I mean, it's just, it was great to have a guy like him on the panel. So Thomas saying struck that object, but wasn't a bullseye. That can explain the damage falling. Perhaps, but the thing is with like the Hellfire missile, it struck it enough that it would have diverted it off course to some degree, but it just kept on going. It was to me really, really bizarre. It kind of defied physics. I'm still curious as to what the pieces were that broke off. Was that from the Hellfire missile or was it from the object? I mean, I am leaning toward object because some of the pieces kind of filter that way, but yeah, it's been pretty wild. And then, yeah, Michelle, I also like how they are forthright of the need to protect those that are reporting experiences. Yeah. So, all right. Again, when we look at this object or these objects, they are these balls of light. They weren't aircraft. They, weren't any technology that we know of. They were seemingly these balls of light that were zipping across the sky. I mean, they weren't, like the other videos we've seen in the past, like the Tic Tac or the gimbal, these sorts of things. They weren't the the triangular objects that we've seen and heard about. It wasn't like the Phoenix Lights, coming in or anything like that. It was this giant ball of light zipping through the sky at great speeds. And we've seen a lot of this lately. I mean, people have been seeing that type of phenomenon for a long time. But if you remember, back during the big drone flap, these were things that people were seeing in the skies, and people were actually seeing drones coming in and out of those. So while a lot of those drones back then were probably government testing, I mean, I even said that initially when it was happening. It was like, yeah, this a lot of this is probably government testing, but why are they not just saying, yeah, hey, we're testing some drones up here, which they ultimately did say. These ones where people were actually seeing, even government officials out there saying, I'm seeing these drones coming in and out of these balls of light. So what is that? And people were capturing, images like this in the sky, these giant balls of light that some were just hovering there, some were moving. It was really fascinating. So this one here, I've shared a lot. This one was, so both of these here were New Jersey. This one here is Edinburgh, Scotland, back in December. And so these are, these balls of light weren't just New Jersey. It wasn't just the New Jersey drones. It was happening everywhere. And so we have that on December 20th, but then it was, I want to say it was like a week later. This is all coming from Catherine Swin, my partner, who is living there in Scotland. let me grab the. Okay, so this is the one that was captured. It was I want to say it was a week or two after that December 20th. Again, I'm not going to be able to monologue over the top. It's only like a 14-second clip anyway. So yeah, that's just like hanging out there. This is like around, excuse me, around the Firth of Forth there, in Scotland. But then just a few weeks back, and sightings like this have continued to be reported. Talking with other people that I've met from Scotland, you go onto Facebook, hit some of the different groups that are out there, and they're sharing some of these different photos and experiences and all this. In fact, there was one when it comes to the glowing ball of light on the 20th. There was another person on that same day from the area there around Edinburgh, from the other side of the Firth of Forth, that sent me a photo, and basically it's the same object, two different angles. It's like, wow, this is fascinating. With this one here, I'm going to play the clip first, and then we'll do a we'll get a little zoomed in shot of it. Also from Kate, around the Firth of Forth area, just a few weeks ago. Yeah, just a quick clip like that. She just got it like really, really quick. But here's a photo of it. And I mean, it looks like a small sun is up there in the sky. It is super, super bright like that, just hanging out in the clouds. That is not a star, because you can see the clouds wrapping around the back side of it. That's incredible. And you can even see like in the bottom of it, it's glowing through the bottom of the cloud. I mean, what in the world is that thing? So we've talked a lot on here, and I'm going to link back to it, our discussion on lights in the sky and plasmoids and things like this. And with the ones where people are seeing like the drones coming in and out and similar type activity, those that have been following along for a while have heard me talk about that. I believe that these may actually be the portals or stargates that these objects, these craft, these beings are using to move in and out of our world, and possibly even our dimension. So when we get into the idea of the Einstein-Rosen bridge, you guys have seen this a million times. The Einstein-Rosen bridge, each of those openings is a circle into a tunnel. Well, a circle is two-dimensional. The world around us is 3D space. Well, a circle in 3D space is a sphere. So Interstellar did a great job of depicting this, the spherical hole. In fact, if you've been following my social media, I have some clips up there from the interview I did with Gaia this past summer, Gaia TV. And we were talking about a lot of this. And Jimmy Church was hosting, and he's asking me specifically about Interstellar. And we are specifically talking about this, where, I mean, you had a renowned physicist, Kip Thorne, that consulted on that film. And this is the way they showed that particular concept, using a spherical hole to enter in and head off to another galaxy. But it doesn't have to be another galaxy. And in that one, it was stationary. It was just sitting out there near Saturn. But an intelligent being, far more advanced than us, would not only be able to use such a thing as its own portal or stargate. And again, the difference between a portal and stargate: portals are naturally occurring, and a stargate is the ability for an intelligent being to take that portal and be able to use it at their will. So they could make this stargate, this portal, this glowing ball of light, if this is the entrance point, they would have the technology or the know-how or whatever you want to call it to be able to move it across the globe at will. And perhaps that's why some of these things are so fast. If this thing here is not necessarily a craft, but actually the portal or Stargate, and it's being shifted across the earth to a different access point, then it's going to move at super fast speeds. And there are some of these things have been clocked at speeds that far, far, far surpass anything that we've ever come up with, or at least that we've admitted that we've come up with. I mean, again, this could all be technology that is being tested by the government. We'll test our glowing ball of light and shoot a missile at it and see what happens. Yeah, that's possible. But why is this one hanging out in the air? Why is that one hanging out in the air? And what is the deal with these objects that are moving, into and out of it? So yeah, I think there's a lot more to all of this. So Colleen says, we use drones for observation and information gathering. What if these are the same from wherever they come from? And what do you think when we are firing on them? Yeah. So, and that is a very distinct possibility, and actually kind of something that I threw out there with the drones, the whole drone flap as well, that when that was happening, like if you were, let's say you are coming from another point in time, if you are an interdimensional being and you're coming from like the fifth, sixth, seventh dimension, whatever, that means you're outside the scope of time, which means you have access to all time. So if you want to go and observe humanity for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe there's something about this age that you want to observe. Well, how would you mask yourself coming into here? Well, we know that they're going to have this big drone flap where people are all, wigged out about the drones in the sky. So let's go ahead. We'll mock up some drones that look like human drones of the era, and we'll send them out there and watch and observe. And so, yeah, your ball of light would kind of be the portal to send the drones out to watch and observe. Or I think kind of what you're suggesting, could that glowing ball of light, that object, be the observation point as well? Well, that is a possibility for a portal or a Stargate. There's many, many uses. Yes, you can use it for travel. That's kind of what we most commonly think of, is that travel, whether it's intergalactic, like through the cosmos, right? Or if it's across the world, like interplanetary. And of course, we're talking interdimensional and all these other things, even traveling through time. One of the other things that I've thrown out there is, communication, that you could simply communicate through a portal or a Stargate. That's the very first thing when we created a baby wormhole in the lab, scientists a couple of years ago. The very first thing that they did was they sent a message through. So yeah, that is absolutely a possibility. But on that same note, with the communication, sure, you could basically almost like your crystal ball, right? Or a Palantir, that you could, through that, look and see and observe what's on the other side. What's on the other side of our spherical hole? We are looking down at Edinburgh, and for whatever reason, we're checking out the Firth of Forth, or we're out there in New Jersey, and there are military bases, and a lot of these things we're seeing in and around the different military bases. So yeah, that is absolutely a distinct possibility. Now, why are we firing upon it? I mean, that is a huge, huge question. What is the threat that they determined from all of this? And I can't answer that. I mean, I would love to be able to answer that. We had an incident back in 1942 known as the Battle of Los Angeles, where at that time they thought it was a Japanese attack. So this was February 25th, 1942, and more than 1,400 rounds of ammunition were fired at what, like I said, what they first thought was some sort of attack by the Japanese. Now, the the government ended up saying, well, this was a weather balloon. Well, okay, look, here are weather balloons from the era. Okay, do those look like that? No. So here's kind of the breakdown of what happened to, which is really, really interesting. So at 2:15 a.m. in the morning, they detected a craft coming in off the shore of Los Angeles, 120 miles out. 120 miles out. 6 minutes later, 2:21 a.m., the regional controller ordered a blackout since the target was now within a few miles of the coast. And then 4 minutes later, at 2:25 a.m., air raid sirens began to sound. So you're going to tell me this thing traveled almost 120 miles in 6 minutes? That's, I don't think a weather balloon is traveling that fast. That makes no sense. So then, yeah, at 2:43 a.m. is when a coast artillery colonel spotted what he thought were about 25 planes at 12,000 feet over Los Angeles. So whatever he thought he saw, he thought it was planes. And this is why they started firing upon it, was because they thought they were Japanese airplanes, since it was in the middle of the war. And so they just let loose on the thing. Like I said, 1,400 rounds. It was the 37th Coast Artillery Brigade began firing 50 caliber machine guns and 2.8 pound artillery shells. And there was a whole barrage at first, and then firing continued sporadically for about an hour. So this was, they saw something significant up there. 5 civilians are believed to have died from the incident, three from traffic accidents and 2 from heart attacks, which is really, really sad. But yeah, they believe that was something like this, a weather balloon. And this is also from the 40s. In fact, this particular image is the military's attempt at debunking the Roswell UFO incident. So this weather balloon is supposed to be this debris that we know, that's Jesse Martell. We know that was not what really happened, what really crashed, but that there is an incident where, and I understand that we fired upon that thing because we legitimately thought it was an attack from the Japanese. Okay, I get that. And of course, then we tried to cover it up by, oh yeah, weather balloon. Sure. So the reason why they would have fired at this thing off of Yemen, I mean, I don't know really what our international relationship is there with Yemen and how much authorization we have to fire upon objects in their waters. I mean, I have no idea on that, what the protocol is. My guess is this had to been, for whatever reason, some sort of perceived threat, or they were trying to, something that they were trying to shut down and stop. It might not even necessarily be a threat. Could very well be, if they are somehow in the know of whether it's extraterrestrial or ultra terrestrial activity that's going on, and this thing is shifting across the sky, and it's like, we don't want that to go to wherever it's going, to stop it from happening. Maybe we don't fully understand what it is, but no, we don't want that thing going to wherever it's going to go. Maybe we knew the destination. We didn't want it to go to the destination. So let's try firing a Hellfire missile at it. I mean, we could speculate all day as to what in the world is going on. But, if this is something that is extraterrestrial or ultra terrestrial, and they have that type of technology that, we are shooting our best anti-armor missile at it. I mean, these things are designed to pierce the strongest armor in the world, and it can't do that. The Hellfire missile just bounces right off of it, and this thing keeps going through the sky with a couple little flakes falling off of it. I don't think we want to tick those sort of beings off. I would like to try some diplomacy first. If these are beings that are living alongside of us, then I would suspect that we would want to foster good relationships with them. I get asked the question all the time, especially like with shadow people. And I actually had a filmmaker here yesterday for the film's going to come out in a few months, and this is something that we were discussing yesterday about extraterrestrials specifically, but I also talk about it with shadow people and other beings that, are they malevolent? Well, or are they benevolent? Because you do have, factions of people that, all of them are they're all just trying to help us. They all just want to help humanity. And then you have others that are, very fearful, that like, they're going to destroy humanity. They're going to kill us all, and this sort of thing. And I really think you're going to have those on either side. You're going to have the polar opposites, but most sorts of beings and people, I always relate it back to humans. I mean, this is what we have to go off of. Some people are good, some people are bad. It happens. Most people are in between somewhere, because we're all flawed people, and we have a lot of gray area within our lives. So this is what I end up saying about shadow people. And I was saying the same thing about extraterrestrials yesterday, that you are going to have ones that are very, very benevolent, and they just want to help the different civilizations across the universe. Fantastic. And you're also going to have the ones that are like, straight out of Independence Day, that are just, reaping and harvesting and pillaging off of, everybody else's planet, and they go from one planet to another. Yeah, sure, that's going to happen too. But I think most are really kind of in between somewhere, and you are going to foster some sort of relationship of, there's something that that I can offer you that would help benefit your civilization, and you have something from yours that would help us, and we can come to some sort of mutual trade agreement and live in general peace and harmony by whatever trade or agreement that we come up with. So I think we should probably do that first, rather than just start shooting at stuff. So very, very bizarre. All right, Jose, lately there have been a lot of green meteorites. I wonder what that's all about, and why specifically green. Just saying. Interesting. I guess I haven't seen a lot about green meteorites. I mean, when it comes screaming through the sky, it's a big fireball. There are like Moldavite turns out green. Now that is like it's crystal that was once molten because of the heat from the meteorite that crashed in, and the green vegetation around the area turned that crystal green. So there's things like that. I don't know. A lot of meteorites are kind of grayish in nature. I guess I haven't seen that. You'd have to throw down a link or something, or a particular article. I'd check that out. Yeah. So let's see, Sarah. Refraction of light and frequency. There's a bit of that going on as well. Let's see what other questions you guys might have. But it's a really, really bizarre situation that we have here. Hopefully it's just these two incidents. And when it comes to China, I mean, all bets are off there. It's just, something's going to be in the Chinese sky. They're just going to shoot it down, ask questions later. That's pretty much their take on it. But with this other one, since it's supposed to be our operations, that's the one I'm certainly a bit more concerned about. So, all right. I think we are going to. Oh, you meant fireball. Okay, a green fireball. Now that's interesting because yeah, usually the fireballs are like yellowish, whitish, orangish in nature. I'll have to look that up about the green fireballs if there's something going on there. That is interesting, Jose. So, all right. I think that is going to wrap that up for this one this evening. So we only have a couple more left of connecting the universe for a little while because I'm going to be traveling. I mentioned it earlier. I'm going to be traveling in the middle of October through basically Thanksgiving. And then, that's holiday weekend. And so it'll be next week, October 8th, which will be an Edge of the Rabbit Hole episode. Heather Taddy is going to be our guest. I'm going to do a pre-record for the 15th because I am leaving the next day on the 16th, that morning, to head up to Thunder Bay, Ontario for Lake Superior Paracon. And then when I come back on that Monday, I'm here for a day. And then on Wednesday, I'm headed out overseas. So basically 2 lives, a pre-record, and then done until December. And we're probably only going to be able to get in an episode or 2 in December. So we're kind of actually winding down for the year, guys. But I will do as much as I can within the Connected Universe portal and on Patreon to give you guys that extra content, especially when I'm traveling, because that's going to be Scotland, England, Greece, Egypt. It's going to be pretty incredible. So stay tuned for all of that. All right, everyone. Till next time, if time really exists.